Hi. Okay. I want to speak briefly on the forthcoming Osun governorship elections on Saturday 15th. Just a few days, August 15th. Um, to my mind, the outcome of the forthcoming Osun governorship elections are pretty much predictable. The outcomes, are pretty much predictable. And why do I say this? I need you to watch these three short clips, and then I'll give a 2 or 3 minutes presentation. Just watch.
Wọ́n ti rí pé omi ti tán lẹ́yìn ẹja wọn ni tọ́lá máa sọ̀rọ̀ wọ́n rẹ̀ dọ́ọ̀sì wa nígbà tó yá aláwẹ̀ fẹ́ bú sẹ́kù. Ẹ̀dọ́ọ̀sì yín kílẹ̀ tó fẹ́ ẹ̀dọ́ọ̀sì yẹn kọ́ ló máa gbé ogba kìíní yìí a máa gbà lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ nù. Kò bá àti ẹ̀dọ́ọ̀sì mẹ́wàá alẹ́ tó ń bọ̀ iṣẹ́ a máa gbà padà.
I'm passing this message to you. Kí lẹ fẹ́ kí Ọ̀ṣun ṣe? A ní pé àti ẹ̀dọ́sì yìí kí ló dé? Kí ló dé? Kí ló fi pa wá? Kí ló dé? Kí ló fi pa ọmọ Yorùbá? Àwọn ọlọ́pàá ti wà compromise. Ẹ jẹ́ kí wọ́n máa wá sí bọ́dà wa. Àwọn kidnappers wà bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ bá wọn. Àwọn tó ń jíyàn gbé. President Tinubu mọ̀ ń fi àsìkò yìí sọ fún yín o. Kẹ́ má sọ pé mi ò pariwo. I am the chief security officer of Osun State. Hello?
Okay. The first clip you saw was the former governor of Osun State, Isiaka Oyetola, governor from 2018-2022. Now currently Honorable Minister for Marine and Blue Economy in the Tinubu administration. That's him emerging from a Nigerian Navy, a helicopter, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, a federal government helicopter has the insignia of either the Air Force or the Navy. The second video is the video of the same Oyetola again, boasting openly, speaking very confidently, very cock assuredly that I'm at Balowe. That Adeleke has been crying all over the place. I know he spoke here, but I'm just doing a paraphrase of everything he said. That Adeleke has been crying all over the place, saying to President Tinubu that I have endorsed you, we have endorsed you, so why are you harassing us, calling Oyetola to order? I know Oyetola is saying, even if you endorse us 10 times, we don't care about your endorsements. I'm at Balowe, meaning we will take it from you, which is quite reminiscent of a phrase made famous by somebody who once said, snatch it, grab it, and run away with it. So you can see that blood is actually thicker than water. Why do I say blood is thicker than water? Because Minister Oyetola is actually alleged to be either a cousin or nephew of President Tinubu, whichever one. They are related. And the only thing that gives him access to presidential power that he is obviously relying on to make this serious boast against an incumbent governor is his consanguinity, his family, filial relationship with the president, openly threatening the governor that we would upstage him, we would remove him, we would snatch the governorship. In essence, and then of course you see Ademola Adeleke in the last video, more or less crying, trying to appeal to the conscience of President Tinubu that, we have endorsed you, allow a level playing field in Osun State elections. I mean, why are you allowing them to use the police and other law enforcement agencies to harass and intimidate? People have died, people have been killed. Because as I speak here now, today, 11th August, so far, well over 30 persons have died before even election day. On election day, only God knows what would happen. So Adeleke is appealing to the conscience of President Tinubu. Of course, remember that President Tinubu, the FCC had, placed a no debit on the account, one of the accounts, salary accounts of Osun State government, which he quickly ordered the FCC, to remove, to lift through the courts and all of that. Anyway, why am I doing this? this is classic hubris. What Oyetola is doing and the APC crowd, what they are doing is classic hubris. And there's a backgrounder to this. Osun State is my mom's state. My mom is from Malaysia, and I spent quite a couple of years there with my grandmother, decades back. But there's a backgrounder to the war going on between APC and Adeleke, formerly PDP, now Accord Party. Briefly, I was embedded in the Adeleke campaign in 2018, and we won that election against the APC. Adeleke won. I know because I was an integral part, of that entire process. We went to the trial court. The INEC declared, Oyetola to have won, because, like we all witnessed during that election, Adeleke had won. Then they, instigated chaos in the rerun to create a rerun, and in the rerun it was just a shambolic exercise. Results were written, and we went to the trial court. And at the trial court, which I was attending every day, in Abuja here, the court was moved to Abuja because of violence. Anyway, in a split decision 2-1, the trial court gave victory to us, that is the Adeleke camp. And then, of course, they went on appeal. APC went on appeal, and then they won, I think, 4-1 or 5-0. 5 judges to nil or 4-1 at the Supreme Court, where it was going to be finally decided. We're so confident we're going to win. But then what happened? That's where the introduction of technicality writ large, became a sad and awfully tragic, part of our legal jurisprudence. Because Chief Justice Tanko then was a member of the panel when he appeared before the Senate for his screening when he was appointed Chief Justice of Nigeria. When they asked him, I remember Senator Baribe asked him about the case of Osun Governorship election, 2018 Supreme Court decision. The only thing he could say was that, when you ride an airplane, and all of those, it was a crude and barbaric, travesty of justice, a miscarriage of justice. But then fast forward, and I might add also, Buhari was president in 2018, and he needed re-election, to win his re-election in 2019. So Buhari, the selfish Buhari that he is, looked the other way while they did whatever they did in Osun. But 2022, Buhari was no longer contesting for any elections. So he ensured that the rules were abided with. He didn't help anybody. He called all the law enforcement and INEC to order. And of course, Adeleke won. But now, Adeleke's worst nightmare is not just that APC are the party in power, which could have been a governor or a president who would stick by the rules, but to have a president in the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president, that is Adeleke's worst nightmare. He could never have asked for anything worse than that, because since President Tinubu came to power, the only off-cycle elections, governorship elections, that have been won by a party not the APC is Anambra, if I'm correct. And it's because from day one, Chukwuma Soludo pledged allegiance, pled fealty, more or less prostrated, rolled on the ground, and paid obeisance to the emperor himself, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But for Osun State, from the voice of Boyega Oyetola, it is obvious that is the mindset of the president. The president himself is alleged to be an indigene, originally an indigene of Osun State. Bar a miracle of epic proportions, which is not beyond God. Of course, what God cannot do does not exist. I think it is safe to assume or conclude that Governor Nuruddin Ademola Adeleke, Governor Nuruddin Jackson Ademola Adeleke, I don't know anybody needs all those sort of names, is going to be a one-time, governor. Like I said, bar any epic miracle from God. And this is sad, because this is not democracy. We're not practicing democracy. Let's stop kidding or fooling ourselves. And I have the guts to say what I'm about to say. I don't know if I've said it before, but I'll say it. We're not matured for democracy. We're not ripe for it. We're not matured for it. We're not civilized. We're not a civilized people. I'm not just talking about maybe Yorubas or Nigerians. I'm talking about Africans generally. We're not matured. We're not civilized. I've even questioned whether Africans are part of the human race, whether we're truly Homo sapiens, we're not matured for democracy. We function at the level of the common animals. Contest for power ought to be a contest of ideas, ought to be a contest of camaraderie, of banters, of like we football fans do, banter each other. Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, we banter each other. In very rare cases, some of those banters degenerate to fisticuffs or even, fatalities. One very rare cases. That is what politics ought to be. Everywhere else in the world, politics is a game of ideas, a contestation of ideas, policies, plans, programs for the people. We've practiced this democracy now, so-called democracy, and it's not taking us anywhere. We're not ripe for democracy. I don't know how this entire Fourth Republic is going to play out or play on. I don't know. But this is not democracy. And it's sad. But then I say to Itola and the APC people, beware of hubris. Beware of hubris. If you can pull back, you still have 4 days to pull back. If Ademola Adeleke is a dancing governor and loves to dance, and so what? Democracy does not always throw up the best, the most competent. But if that is what the people want, allow them. Allow them. But like I said, it will be a miracle of epic dimensions for Adeleke to be, for the contest to be free, fair, and credible on Saturday, and for Adeleke to have any, sliver of opportunity to win this election. I think he's a one-time governor. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.